Welcome to the Giants Nation Show. I'm your host, Bobby Skinner, and this is presented by the people. Got Connor Rogers on. You know him from PFF, SNY, Badlands, NBC Sports. He's everywhere. So wanted to have him on to talk some draft in this draft month. But I thought instead of just asking his questions and hearing him say the same things he's said on every interview that he's done, like, you know what, let's just go through a mock draft and he can talk about players, that he wants for the Giants in the first, second, third round, and even all the way to the seventh and talk about the Giants situation. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. So we go through a simulator. That'll be on it. I'm going to do a wide receiver preview at the end, not as in-depth as with me and Grump, which, by the way, I've been having so much fun doing this. The position previews for the draft, those are the things I always had to fight about at the old company because they don't get the most views, right? There's so many people out there doing draft stuff. Draft stuff a lot of times can be not great in like the audio sense, right? Like you want to see the players, you want to see breakdowns and stuff. But I feel like one, it's good. It lets us get 120 to 150 profiles on players, so we're ready for the draft. And I think the listeners value it too, even if it's not their thing that they're even tuning into, but they just know like, hey, these are the guys that are putting in the work on the prospects. So when the Giants do make picks, this is where we can go. And the draft is always a huge growth point. So like I've always wanted to sacrifice some views to get those views and, the respect post-draft, but it was always like, well, talk more QB, talk more. No, but it's been fun. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun. So we're going to get into this interview with Connor Rogers, but first I got to talk to you. And I know people get tired of hearing the names eventually. But this is what makes the show go. So it would be pretty crappy, I feel like, of me if to say, hey, you guys are the ones that are making this all Giants Nation show possible, but I don't have the time to publicly say your name on the show as a thank you. Plus, the list is getting smaller. I mean, this is a week's worth, but I'm just so appreciative of everything. Everything feels new. Everything's having fun. So I want to say thank you to Jake, Matt, Michelle, Stager 518, David Restrepo, Billy Don, Andrew Kohlmeyer, Marshall Gumbos, Aaron Harrigan, Randy Salang, Eric Smith, Maxwell Smith, couple Smith boys, Jake Bedford, Joe Saglambani, Joe Schlosser, Neil Brazer, Latsopus. Oh, great name. Good job, buddy. You got me. The Krizza, Sam McGrath, Jack Hobbs, Steve Pop, Steve Donnelly, Soner Ajavosky. Ajavozowski, Will Cooper, I got that name right. Tim, Joe Lefkowitz, Nolan C., Christian Umbro, Gerald Tobin, Ed Brillante, Dylan Stankiewicz, Bill, Randall Angel, Nicholas J. Rodato, Gabo Slayer, Trey Carpenter, Owen Lavery, Mike Kanya, Matt Batista, Anthony Grispo, Diego Ortiz, Eli Nix, Jeffrey Morrissey, Saren Boyle, Dan Drago, Patrick, Desmond Burton, Big Pete, Will Red, Nico Cologne, Dennis Sellery, Andrew Danga Storm, and Daniel Reckenstein. I appreciate you guys. Thank you very much. Patreon.com/Giants Nation if you guys want to support and keep this show running, because this is what's keeping the show running. I'm really excited for the future. I'm genuinely having so much fun, and I'm having fun doing this during draft month and while trying to start a business and having meetings with this person, meetings with that person, which is like two stressful ass things. So just imagine how fun it'll be when this is just like up and running. So appreciate you guys very much. And here's Connor Rogers. I would now welcome on Connor Rogers of like everywhere, kinda. It's Badlands, PFF, SNY, NBC Sports. Your favorite draft analyst. Thanks for jumping on, man. Appreciate it as we venture into the new Giants Nation show era.
Dude, no problem. I'm excited for this. I'm excited for you. And man, what a time for the Giants as well. I mean, no better time to kind of start a new venture wrapped around them, right?
Yeah, and so it's like either one to be. I've been saying, I was like, I've always been hoping for winning, but it'd be really nice if you started winning now, so people would be a little more interesting. And I'm sure we'll talk about it in this exercise, but I'm not in on the drafting Shador train, but I also am like that's a lot of fucking content over the summer that I can do if they do draft Shador. Like I'm going to at least lean into breaking them down. But so instead of just having you on and asking you the same questions you get on every podcast of what do you think about the quarterback? What's the strength? And you say defensive tackle, and we talk about just going to go through a quick mock draft simulator of the Giants, and you kind of say, hey, this is what's in the range. This is what I would do. This is why I want to do that and go through it. I mean, let's
I think it's the
do
best
some.
way to do it. It just puts you in scenarios and actually shows you maybe what the team will think or what people will think in that situation, and kind of just paints the best picture of the draft.
Let me see if I got this on my screen correctly. Okay, there we go. We got the Simple Man Radio background. I got to figure out a Giants Nation show one. All right, so simple. Gonna go through it. Giants pick 3, 7 rounds. And then again, we'll spend some time on the other ones and then we'll fly through. I'm hoping this doesn't put Shedeur Sanders at 2, because then I'm just gonna restart because I need you to make a decision there. So 1 Cam Ward, 2 Travis Hunter. Okay, that's exactly what I'm hoping for here. This is what would you do if you're the New York Giants? What are we doing here at pick 3?
I just can't pass on Abdul Carter. And it's a weird situation, right? Because you look at the Giants and you don't go, man, edge rusher is this massive problem on this roster. They have capable pass rushers. But when you look at one of the best talents in the draft and the best talent available in this spot, it's Abdul Carter, and somebody that could just absolutely wreck the game for you up front. And it also comes down to, Bobby, like I'm not dying to take Shedeur in the top 10. It's just not something that I did. If I were GM mock draft for NBC this week, and I didn't have him in the first round. I didn't do trades. If somebody goes back into the end of round 1 and takes Shedeur, I understand the situation, but I feel like it would be a reach in this spot. I don't pick for need with a top 5 pick. I think that's really, really dangerous. Abdul Carter is far away the best player in this spot. I think the question I would throw back at you is, are you trading Kayvon Thibodeau immediately in this spot, or are you riding out the season with the rotation of him, Burns, and Carter?
I mean, I would try and ride it out with the rotation. Obviously, Kayvon hasn't lived up to what we expect out of him, but like he's been a solid pass rusher. You know, put up double-digit sacks a year ago, but it was like, but he's not really winning consistently. Kind of beat some backup tackles and had some flurries. Where this past year, I thought he was more consistent, but he got injured. He didn't get the sack numbers to go with it, but still not living up to what we were hoping with 5th overall in that draft. Where Aiden Hutchinson, who obviously was picked higher, is like just he's on a different level as a player. But if there's any team that you don't have to pitch to the fan base while having 3 pass edge rushers works, is the Giants. Like we've done it twice for Super Bowls. Adding Tuck to Strahan and OC, and then adding JPP to OC and Tuck. So, and again, Abdul Carter is the best player in the draft, but I'm with you. I don't think Shedeur Sanders is a first round level player, right? If we're hitting, like everyone will point to, and we did our QB preview last week, is the arm talent, the lack of athleticism. I think he has enough of those traits to be an NFL QB. My issue is I don't think he's nowhere near as good as a processor as people give him credit for, because he has a high completion percentage. I mean, I did a film breakdown, and it's like anytime they threw some type of coverage rotation, I mean, his first read could be wide open, and he's just like shell-shocked. He's not pulling the trigger on it. So it really comes down to that, and then Abdul Carter being my 1-1 in this draft. But if I thought Shedeur was 17th on my big board or whatever, I would be taking Shedeur here. I just don't view him like that. Like Abdul Carter much higher for me than Cam Ward as a player, but I'm taking Cam Ward if he was here.
It would be the same situation for me. And you look at the way Penn State used Carter, he's used to standing up over guards and centers at times too. So say you get into 3rd and longs and you go, okay, we like Burns and KT to be our wide rushers here. Hey, Abdul Carter, this is something you were really good at in college. You saw him work a spin move. You saw an arm over. He started to actually develop pass rush moves the second half of the season, both as an edge rusher and an interior stand-up rusher. So they could have one of the more potent NASCAR packages in the NFL to get off the field on 3rd downs with this pick.
Yeah, and like you said with the Kayvon stuff, entertain it, right? Like I'd be willing to entertain it. You pick up his 5th-year option and like I'm not sitting here saying, oh, you got to keep Kayvon for the long term. But I think a team that just lacks talent, add it, and that's one of your, one of probably 2 A+ players in the draft with Carter, where it's just so much game record. And I hear the reaction. Oh, what about the run defense? You got 3 edges who aren't great run defenders. Okay, but I mean, Carter's going to get you double-digit tackles for a loss every year. Yeah, if they double-team him with the tackle and the tight end, they're going to move him off the edge. But he's so disruptive if you leave him one-on-one that he's going to make you pay for it. It's kind of like, TJ Watt in a sense where, TJ Watt isn't going to be your best, run defender set the edge, but he's going to make you pay for working outside in and get those losses that'll end
Right.
up working out in the end. And I'm not letting Burns and Thibodeau's deficiencies stop me from taking a guy who I just think's a stud in Carter.
That's what it comes down to. You don't let those get in the way of taking somebody that could be a truly great player. And in a draft that doesn't have a lot of guys with the ceiling of greatness, Carter is one of those guys with that ceiling.
So gonna lock in Carter here. My question for you quickly before we go to the second round is who would you take if it was between Carter and Hunter?
For the Giants, I would take Hunter. I think that he could truly play both ways for them. Now, would he be able to do it over an 8-year sample size? All the snaps? No, I don't think, from a science perspective, that's possible. But I think he'd be a really, really dynamic number 2 pass catching threat in an offense that you just drop him in there with Neighbors and Slayton already. That's exciting. And then maybe if you like him more at wide receiver, I think he has the ball skills and twitch to even, play a little safety if he wanted to. But the Giants look really good at safety right now. You have Holland and Newbin, so he would be more of a corner in that spot. Now they got a Debo. So he'd probably play a lot of wide receiver for them because it felt like the returns on Drew Phillips were good last year, kind of waiting for Banks to be better. But I don't think you're just giving up on Banks in that spot. I would still take Hunter, though, just because I think he's just so dynamic both ways. But it's not an easy decision. Like you walk away with one of those two guys for the Giants and you feel really, really strong because they're just far and away the best players in the draft.
Yeah, and I'm a Carter over Hunter guy. The thing that gives me pause is I'm not a doctor, and foot injuries just scare me a little bit. But I'm not pretending to understand that, and so I'm just.
I don't think anyone does. Yeah,
Carter. Yeah,
he'll come off the board still. So teams will tell you they're comfortable enough with it.
Yeah, and so round 2, pick 34. So kind of went terrible here. So Shador's off the board, which he will be off at that point. Connerly and Harmon both went, who's been like the two guys I eye in that range.
Okay.
I'll scroll through this. I hope you can squint enough to see. What are we thinking here?
This is a weird way for it to fall.
Do it for you.
Yeah, it's a weird way for it to fall, right? Because you nailed it that, you love Harmon in that spot. This is kind of weird to me because I think my favorite player in this spot is Marion Hampton, but like he's my favorite player. I am a big Tyrone Tracy guy and think the Giants can get away with taking a running back later in this draft to pair with him. And I think Hampton, there's a good chance that he's gone already in this spot. What does the interior defensive line board look like with Harmon gone now? That would be my big question there.
Nolan went, so I'm pulling it up. So the Giants had a top 30 visit announced with Hampton while they were recording this, and it's been my thing where with Hampton, I am willing to do it. It makes me feel wrong, right? I can hear the arguments of what we have, but it's just like, yeah, it's like, okay, he's a walking explosive, and having Tracy there makes me almost a little more excited because you just get to pair those guys together. So we got Darius Alexander, TJ Sanders, Tyleek Williams, Norman Lott.
Tyleek's my highest ranked one here. So it would be between Tyleek, Hampton. Now there's a gap. Like Hampton's going to be my best player available by quite a few spots for what the Giants need. Are you in the mold that like you're riding it out at corner with Banks, or are they looking for an outside corner to add in this draft? Where do you stand on that?
I am totally fine with riding with Banks, but
I would also agree.
He's not stopping me from picking a corner at 34 if I just view him as like the best available.
Revel's here, and Revel's a freak. That's why I was like, and Revel's coming off the ACL. So it's like, okay, we have the depth where he doesn't have to play right away. I'm going to take Hampton because I just won't shy away from getting a great player. And like for the perspective, and it does feel weird because it is a running back, but this offense has got to get going. And this is a surefire way to do that. I mean, Hampton for me right now is my 12th overall player in this draft. And I was between him and Tyleek, and Tyleek's in the 20s. So there's just a big gap here where I just want the talent, even if it feels like the Giants are. And I feel good about adding an interior defensive lineman with our next pick if that's where we need to go. And then O-line, there's a lot of guards here. Like there's just a lot of guards in this spot.
It feels like 65 is like that sweet spot for guards, whether it's a Bo or 70 from Arizona. But I'm a big fan of the double dip at positions, or even like triple dip, right? I think whenever we do mock drafts, it's like, I got to fill that need. I did one because I only do a few every year, but I did one. I took Harmon in the second. Obviously, he's not here for this. I took Peebles at the top of the fourth, and then Cam Jackson. Like I'm all for it. In fact, every year I do like a draft day monologue on philosophies, and I'm kind of running out of philosophies. I think this year mine's going to be on like, don't be afraid to double dip at positions.
I'm a big believer of it with the strengths of a draft, and this draft is very clearly strong at defensive line and guys mostly that were tackles in college that are going to play guard at the next level.
Yeah, you know who's probably pissed off that they drafted a tight end right after drafting one in the first round? The Ravens in 2018. And guess what? They got Mark Andrews. The Packers with Tucker Kraft. And there's obviously a lot of other examples. So I'm going to lock in on
RG3 and Kirk Cousins.
Yeah. Yeah, my brother's a Commanders fan, so I did mess with him a lot. Just start Cousins now. It's going to happen eventually. What do you while we're waiting for the next pick, who's like your target for the Jets at 7, right?
7 would be Membu. They have to have a better answer at right tackle. You could see how, that deficiency on an offensive line collapses your offense, and they want to run the hell out of the ball. I feel like Membu is pretty cut and dried the spot. If they took Warren, it's more fun because he's just such a good player, physical player. They only have one good pass catcher. So it would add a lot to that and their run game. You look at what they're going to bring over from the Lions. Like Warren is the type of guy that they need to be an engine of that offense, but you got to have a right tackle. So it feels like it comes back to Membu every time.
So if they do that, they're going to do something that I wish the Giants would have done in 2021, which was the year after getting Andrew Thomas, getting Rashawn Slater, who was there at 11 when they traded down. And, I had fighting the fight. Oh, we just drafted a tackle. You guys want offensive lineman? Yes. I actually mocked the tackle to the Giants for 4 years in a row. And then finally thought I got my wish with Evan Neal, and that didn't work out. But I was big on Slater at 11. My only worry is he wasn't going to be there. And because I remember us streaming that night, and the Eagles traded for Devontae Smith, and most Giants fans were like panicking, and I was like fucking celebrating, like let's go. And then they trade back and take Tony. Who I'm a Tony stan, but it just didn't work out.
It just didn't
work. Yeah. So round 3 picks, first pick of the third round. What are we eyeing here? I could pull up the defensive lineman since we didn't.
Let's check out the interior of the defensive line again, and we'll look at the interior of the offensive line again.
You got Norman Lott.
Man, do you prefer pass rush or like 2 gapping presence here in the spot?
If we're speaking specifically to the Giants, 2 gapping presence.
That's what I thought.
I'm all for the pass rush guys.
Yeah.
I was a Kalijah Cansey fan, right, back in the day, and I'm not opposed to that. But with the Giants, like we talked about, they just added Abdul Carter. They've been really bad at stopping the run for a few years now.
I love the idea of Alfred Collins here because he's one of the rare players that he can legitimately play shade nose all the way out to a 5 and just completely shut down what's ever in front of him. Not a ton of pass rush juice, but man, is he a brick wall against the run. And the fact if I'm lining up him and Dex, and then I have Abdul Carter added to the edge rush, this is a really, really strong front for this team. Balance, like they can get after the quarterback and they can stop the run. So Collins is a front runner in this spot. I know we're going to look at the offensive line as well.
All right, let me pull up the offensive linemen that are here. Again, I like you said with the strength of the draft being defensive tackle. Like, if the Giants went like pick 34 defensive tackle, pick 65 defensive tackle, pick 105. Like, I would be pumped. I know people would be a little mad. What about this position? Whatever, but I would be pumped at it.
Ratledge, Bo, Wilson,
man.
7, yeah.
What do we think? Where's our confidence level of GVR, Greg Van Roten, starting for the Giants right now, right guard?
He's a fine 4th, 5th starter, but he's obviously not any type of future plans. But
kind of love Tate Ratledge here, where if I feel like Illuminor can truly play right tackle in this spot, Ratledge is just a surefire answer at right guard.
Yeah.
Which is what I really like about him. So it would be between Ratledge and Collins. It's just a matter of like, am I going to solve the other position with the next pick?
Yeah, and that's the nice thing about seeing mock draft simulators is you can get a better feel for that than NFL teams. But like they both have those, like Collins, I think was like the third guy on that list. This, list has Bo, Wilson, and Savion, who are all
can be options. Which
right.
Again, I think Bo and Savion move
inside. I think I'm leaning Collins because I like the way the line board looks right now because there's so many tackle converts. That's the difference.
Yeah, I'm a big move the guy. Like, not every tackle can be a guard. Anytime we have a bad tackle, it's like, oh, just move him to guard. He'll be great. And that doesn't always work out.
No anchor and gets killed. Yeah.
But I feel like Bo and Savion are both guys who would work out there.
Yes.
Like you said, Bo he's got to get a little stronger, but at least like he's got like tackle foot quickness where Savion is the opposite. All right, so are we going to lock in Collins?
I'd lock in Alfred Collins. Yeah.
All right, let's lock in Collins and then we'll get
pretty killer draft right now for the Giants, which when you're sitting 3 times in the top 70, you should feel pretty good.
Yeah, get after the passer, stop the run, and run the ball. This is a Dave Gettleman dream.
Yeah.
Just got to get the players right. Not with Gettleman, man. There were so many O-line investments, and none of them worked out outside of Andrew Thomas.
That's the thing. You got to hit on the picks.
Yeah, like, let's pay the highest paid tackle, Solder. Yeah, well, he's also going to give the most sacks this year. Will Hernandez doesn't work out until he goes to Arizona. All right, so, dude, all those interior guys. Oh, wait, I forgot.
We could add tackles, though, so this might save us. We'll see.
Oh, dude, they're all gone.
They did go.
We overshot our hand.
I'll say this. Jalen Rivers is a lot better than he gets credit for. I'll pull up my notes on him in a second. I wrote him up pretty recently, and he kind of fits the mold of what you're talking about, where you want to move somebody in, but he's pretty big. He's 6'5", 3/4, 319, big hands, long arms. He's got 35-inch arms.
Was he the guy at the Senior Bowl for Miami, or was that somebody else?
Yeah, he was there.
Okay, yeah.
Yep. Him and Charles Grant are really interesting in this spot. I think that, man, you want like a finisher in the run game. Rivers is probably that guy. Unlocks a lot of power from dropping his hips. I think Rivers, even though he's built like a tackle, he could play both for you in this spot. I like him here. He deserves more love. It's kind of surprising that like nobody cares about him, but
I haven't watched him yet, so I can't. I'm not going to agree or disagree.
He's better. He's better than he gets no buzz, and I'm not saying he should be taken in the first 2 rounds, but I think he goes to show like the depth in this line class, and I think he's somebody that, once again, I think he might be able to kind of steal right guard for you in that spot. He doesn't have good feet at tackle. That's what I was skeptical on him. But here I'm thinking like, man, I might play him at right guard anyway. So kind of leaning Rivers.
All right, want to lock it in?
We got to get an offensive lineman here. I like Rivers enough. Grant would have been really interesting. It's a bigger jump for Grant coming from William and Mary. I think Rivers tape kind of projects a potential starting guard, even though he played.
Who does William and Mary play? Because I haven't watched Grant yet, and I don't even know if they, the film library has any William and Mary.
I'll pull it up. I'll tell you that his best game this year. Let me see.
I guess I could just click on
the thing with Grant was like he was the first accepted Senior Bowl invite, so we were hoping to see him there.
Oh, VMI. They came and did an in-home visit with me. And I didn't want to go to a military school. Richmond Spiders. We got Kyle Aletta representation there. Coastal Carolina. Is that Coastal Carolina or is that some other weird logo? But
I think it's Coastal. That might have been his like big game.
Yeah. All right, so let's put Jalen Rivers in, and then let's get the day 3. Let's see what we're at with. All right, we're at 20 minutes, so we can kind of go quick.
All good. Yeah, we'll get some value in here.
Dude, so I see Tez Johnson went off the board. And one of our friends, Julian, he works for UCF, and he's friends with Dylan Gabriel. All right, so he's always messing with us. Asked about Dylan Gabriel. So we asked Tez Johnson, like, what were your first impressions with Gabriel? He's like, small. He's like, they told me he was small, and then I met him, and he was just went on for like 5 minutes in our interview with him about how Dylan Gabriel is small. And And this is coming from Tez Johnson, who's also pretty small.
Funniest part of it all.
Yeah.
I walked by Dylan Gabriel for the first time at Big Ten Media Days last year, and I was like, man, you don't see a lot of quarterbacks that look like that. You don't. Good for him that he's played that well for that long at that size. Not easy to do.
Yeah.
He didn't look bad in Mobile either.
No, his arm's not bad. All right,
I am a sizist.
Yeah, it's tough to get over. It is.
Where are you at with day 3 quarterbacks? We got Peebles is still out there.
Yeah, that's right. We didn't even think about quarterback in the on day 2 of this draft, but
which is fine.
I just don't want to. Yeah, I don't want to just take one to say we took one. Like who's there right now out of the
quarterback? I saw Will Howard. So, and here's the thing is like I'm with you with that, right? Where I think the Giants are going to draft one on day 2 because they can't go 4 years and say we never drafted a quarterback. I can buy into Milroe because it's so talented, but I also am like I'm not picking him at 34. And any idea?
I think it sounds like you have to now. Like the days of Milroe in the 3rd round was fun, and now those days are gone.
Yeah, and if people are saying that to me, then I'm like, okay, so then I guess I'm not getting Jalen Milroe because I'm definitely not taking him at pick 34, where like 8 of the last 10 players there have been like Pro Bowlers.
Yeah,
and then it's Shug, where it's like I understand his film is pretty good, but I feel like a guy who's 26 film should be like a little higher ahead, and you get spooked by the age. Then who's the other guys? I'm not a dark guy at all.
Neither am I. Yeah,
McCord is nice, but
he's a backup.
He's a backup, right? So it's like, what do you even do? I haven't watched Will Howard though, so if you want to go Will Howard, I'll.
Yeah,
okay.
No, some people don't like this, but I say this when I get asked about it for the Jets all the time. Like if I get to this point, I'm just not taking one. I have 2 guys that could play. Like the Giants have 2 guys that could play in Jameis and Russ. The Jets have 2 guys that could play in Fields and Tyrod. What am I doing that I just have to have somebody in there?
They just don't hit. Like Jordan Travis, is just a wasted pick for the Jets.
He might never play football again. It was a waste of a 5th rounder.
Yeah. Which again, it's a 5th rounder, so if you hit, it's sick. But I put it out every year. Since 2016, the only day 2 QB to hit is Jalen Hurts, and the only day 3 guys hit is Dak and Purdy.
Right, and Dak had the DWI right before the draft.
Was that why he failed? Because I remember him being good at Mississippi State.
Good at Mississippi State. Good at the Senior Bowl.
Yeah, because I was a casual.
It was right before the draft. A lot of people will tell you that cost them a round, which is a full day.
Okay.
So I always wondered, why did Dak fall? Because I was a casual, but I remember Mississippi State was ranked number 1 or number 2 that year with Dak, and they were legit. And then he goes in the 4th round and then has that amazing preseason that you never see from Tony Romo again. All right, we're just hitting everything. What do we got for 105? How long have you? Let me ask you this: how long have you just been doing draft profiles?
I started about 11 months ago. So
no, I'm talking about in your career.
Oh, in my life, since my junior year of college, so 2012.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
I'm finally just hitting to where guys we've done profiles on hit free agency in the NFL.
Now I'll say I don't technically count it until 2016. I feel like I was really raw back in the day.
That counts though.
It does. You learn a lot. You've had some really, really bad scouting takes in those days that you learn from, which is great.
Yeah.
I'm hardened now, where I'm not as fun anymore. I don't bet on outliers anymore.
In 2019, dude, when I first started doing it, it's I'd watch one game on YouTube on my phone, and then I didn't even have a laptop. And then watch highlights. I'm like, Tavon Coney from linebacker from Notre Dame, he's gonna fucking hit, and the guy never played a game in the NFL. It's just I like his highlights. Let's go. And then you get Ivan Pace. You finally fall into that, and you're like, Ivan Pace, I love his film, but it's not going to work. And then he changes you for the next 3 years.
That's the worst part, the most frustrating part.
Which I loved Ivan Pace's film.
Yeah, he was awesome. Yeah, and they found a role for him, a very specific one. Yeah, I kind of like the idea now of getting back to the interior D-line. Peebles is, man, he's one of those dudes where he's definitely the case of betting on an outlier. He's 6 feet tall. He's 280 pounds. He's got short arms. He's not a great athlete. And on film, he's been a really impressive pass rusher for multiple years now with every move in the bag. Like every single move is in the bag with him. And he gets off the ball. So if you get off the ball and you have a full array of pass rush moves and counters, I kind of like the idea of Peebles because we already got our two-gapper in Collins.
Totally. I'm totally down with that. I took Peebles as well. And like you said, getting off the ball. So yes, does he have the size? But guess what is hard to do is do a duo double team block on a guy who's fucking at your knees when you're getting to your first step. It's just hard to do. And then he gives you that pass rush juice. And like you said, you got Alfred Collins, you got Dexter Lawrence. Let's bring in a third guy who can, you put him on the field on third down.
This dude is just from like one of the craziest athletic families of all time. His grandfather was the 14th overall pick in 1970. Peebles. It's just like the NFL bloodlines just run, and football bloodlines just run down. Mom was a softball player at Cal State, like 4-time College World Series. It's just crazy how like the athleticism drips from this guy in terms of his bloodlines.
How do you get 6'2"? I mean, I guess 6'2" is a big fucking dude. But how did we not get 6'2" out of that?
Yeah, right. I know it does make you kind of wonder. How did we not get that and like a 38-inch vertical? But it's all right.
Yeah, Billy Bowman just went off the board. Our guy Dylan Gabriel, all the short guys. This is the time of the draft stream. Oh wait, 154. So what's up with Kyle Williams? I'm actually watching. I'm watching him tomorrow at the time of recording this, and I'll talk about him on the back end of this show. What's up with him? Because I see him rank high, and then see him in the 5th, and now he's available while being, number 60. What's the deal with Kyle Williams?
He won't be here, so I won't take him here to be true. Okay. I think he's a 3rd rounder. I think he's got great play speed, really quick feet in his releases. Like guys try to press him, and he understands how to elude them. For his size, because he's not big. He's 190. He's about 5'10", between 5'10", 5'11". He's really competitive at the catch point. They throw him a ton of screens. He's super dynamic in the screen game, especially open field jukes. But like skinny, short arms, small hands. He plays outside. He's not a slot receiver. He plays outside. He'll have a lot of layup drops or just bad tracking where it's like you should catch that because that's such a big part of your skill set. And the route running is like, I'm just faster than you. The releases are good, but the route running is a lot of time like I'm just faster than the coverage, so I'm just going to run. It's not, there's no nuance or detail. So he's good player, like a good prospect, but he might just be a stretch, like vertical number 3 kind of guy rather than being a high-end player.
Right. So yeah, like you said, he won't be here. Any of these guys, they get to squint to see the screen popping out?
Yeah, I mean, Stutzman is interesting. Zot Frazier is like a wild watch because he is. I'll pull him up in a second.
Isn't he like a wide receiver convert?
I think he was. Darian Porter was that for Iowa State. He was built like him. This dude was at Southern Illinois, then Coffeyville Community College, and then UTSA. So he's like one of those classic like 6-year college guys, but 6'3", 186, 33-inch arms, 4.3 speed, jumps through the gym. He's just like a freakish long corner with speed.
But I'm in a cover 3 scheme.
Yeah, exactly. He's going to be treated like the kid that went to Seattle. He was also Woolen.
Woolen. Another UTSA guy.
Yeah, this is like what they find in the portal, which is crazy. So kind of interested in him in this spot. Okay. Who did we have at the top? Like, who's the best available according to PFF's board? I might be able to get Mickens is a good player. I know they're good at safety, the Giants, but Tesla's interesting. Have you watched him?
Not film. I saw him at the Senior Bowl, and then I saw him against what corner? It was either Amos or Hairston, one of the corners. I think watching against Amos. He could play a little ball.
Tesla's interesting because he's this like power slot kind of guy where that's kind of a fun fit for the Giants. Logan Brown is a super green tackle, but he's been in college a while. I always get nervous when a guy, it's like, yeah, he's a traitsed up tackle, but really raw. It's like, well, he's been in college for half a decade plus. So why is that? Yeah, I think I don't think Quinn makes it here as much as I don't like Quinn. Ty Robinson's a really good player, but we double dipped on D-line. He'll probably be gone. I think I would take Tesla and get some depth at wide receiver and get a power slot with speed.
Again, Giants, you don't have to draft for starters in the 5th round. Yeah. All right, so this is the big gap. They got no 6th round picks. Shout out the Boogie Basham trade. But they have 2 7th round picks. So as we let it all go. Who's like your 7th round when you get to like 7th round in mock drafts, if you do? Who's like your I'm just picking him every time guy?
That's a good one. Let's go down the board here. I'm curious. I mean, running back, there's like so many options between like Land.
I feel like they all go in like the top 5.
They do.
Rounds.
The simulators are kind of weird because I feel good about certain guys being here. Like, I mean, Mickens being here is pretty crazy. Yeah, we're at Sam Brown's on the board, although we just went wide receiver.
Double dip.
Yeah, we could. Andrew Armstrong. It's funny if I take both the Arkansas. Zob Frazier's there, so I'm going to take him.
All right.
Just because he's that traits up corner with speed and crazy length. So that was and gives the Giants a little depth at perimeter corner. They get 6 picks this year. He's got some ball skills.
Yeah, see how Marquand Manuel. Any relationship with Marquand Manuel in your time with the Jets, or not really?
No. It's weird when we do pre and post game, like we're in the studio instead of like at the facility every day. So it's like it's funny. Like we actually do have a kind of a divide with the team that hopefully that kind of changes this year. I'll try to get to camp more. I think that would be a smart move.
Right.
All right, we got a lot of household names here. I know who I'm going to take. I'm taking Holland Pierce.
Okay, that's a 7th round go-to for me as well.
Yeah, when you asked that question, I was looking deep at my tackles, and like Holland Pierce is a go-to for me with that. I think he's better than a 7th rounder, but he's here. D-line, I look at like the Georgia guys like Brinson and Stackhouse.
Right.
That could be there. Pass rushers, maybe Kamen Rucker from UNC is a 7th rounder that I like sometimes. So, yeah, this was actually like, I feel like we ignored quarterback, which whatever, can't invent a class, but we hit on.
You can if you really want to, but yeah.
You can. You could sell at everybody then the 2nd round. Quinn Ewers is going to save the day.
Yeah. All right, so we get Carter, Love, Hampton, Collins. I got to watch, so I got to go and watch some of these guys. Alfred Collins in the round 3, O-line also round 3. Aeneas Peebles has the same pick I did in my most recent one. Tesla from Arkansas, Zoff Frazier from UTSA, and then Holland Pierce out of Rutgers. And here's a go-to, I'm sure you know, for that 7th round pick. Take someone people know.
Rutgers guy,
Penn State
guy in this area.
Get those guys in the 7th round, and people will do that. But dude, appreciate you jumping on. I know you're extremely busy in this month. We all are, but
that was fun. This is good prep for me. Like now I know my Giants picks when we actually do a full 7th rounder for every team at some point, like psychopaths.
So instead of telling people where they can find all your stuff, where's the one place you'd like want to send Giants fans to go see your stuff?
Say NFL Stock Exchange on YouTube. I do with Trevor Sycamore. We're just so deep in the weeds on draft right now, and we've done 3-round mock drafts. We're talking about doing a full 7th rounder. We'll see if we're psychotic enough to do that, but that's definitely the place. If you're in the weeds for the draft right now, like we're going to go 20 deep at every position group, so that's where you want to be.
If you're going to do a 7-rounder, will you do that live or will you do it and then?
Yeah, we were thinking about doing the idea was to do a stream and sporadically just DM, like you'll probably get a DM from me. Just DM people the link and be like, hey, jump on, do 5 picks. Like, you know what I mean? To make it go
That's the way to go about it.
Yeah, and see, like, we could end up having like 50 guests.
At the Senior Bowl, we're usually the last to leave the stadium. Because we're just such hard workers. Except for this year, dude. Fucking Trevor is like Thursday. Everyone's gone for an hour, and they're like cranking through a 2-round mock draft. I'm like, oh my god! Like, I was like, should we wait like 10 more minutes just so we could say we were the last ones here? And it's like, no, they're on like pick 45.
That's the thing. It goes on for hours. I'd be back at the hotel, and like I'd be like, yeah, dude, are you making it to dinner? Like, what are we? But no. So yeah, so it's true. So yeah, expect that random DM from me, like, hey man, we'll be online for the next 9 hours. Jump in whenever you want.
I'm excited for it, dude. Appreciate you jumping on. All right, thanks again, Connor Rogers, for jumping on. Again, everyone kind of knows what the deal is in the Giants space, but those who aren't may not. Obviously, Connor, me and have a relationship, but go tweet at Connor Rogers, man. Tell him you loved him on the Giants Nation show, and if you didn't like his mock draft, let him know respectfully tell him about how taking a running back in the second round is irresponsible, even though I kind of agreed with him with the players that were on the board. So I wanted to finish this off because, everything happened obviously very quickly this month, so we're not able to do the full position reviews on every single position. But wide receiver is one that is probably not the Giants' top priority this offseason, especially with the way they brought back Darius Slayton, Malik Neighbors last year, and then having a slot receiver they like in Wan'Dale Robinson. It's just probably not going to be, but there's still guys that I feel like should be talked about, so we're not going to do a full review. I just want to give my thoughts on a handful of guys, and I want to talk about Travis Hunter first, because there's a good likelihood he's on the Giants, not to be solely a wide receiver, obviously, but to play wide receiver. I mean, he's a really good wide receiver. I mean, he had 1,300 yards and 15 touchdowns last year for Colorado. And when you watch him, you just see he has a natural feel for leverage, right? And that's a wide receiver is a leverage game, and it just allows him to win on any route, even though there is a lot of like bad in his route running, or I'll say rawness. He's just an easy winner. Like, he's going to utilize head and shoulder fakes. And then you add on top of that he can just go up and make crazy grabs, or you get him the ball in space and he can house call, a slant at any time with his ability to create yak. Like that's a top of the first round type of wide receiver. Forget the fact that he plays corner at a high level. And there's things that if he was a full-time wide receiver, need to clean up, and still needs to clean up not being a full-time receiver. He's just, there's routes where he's just kind of going through the motions. Like, there's flat out lazy routes that he has. There's plays where he can slow play and burst into the quick game, but also there's times where he's just taking way too long to get into a quick route, like a slant or a pivot route. And a quarterback in the NFL just doesn't have all day long to wait on you to get into that break. They need you to get into that break and separate, and also do it quickly. And it'd be interesting to see, like, where would Travis Hunter fall into the rankings in last year's class. Probably it'd be wide receiver 3 for me in last year's class, which again was an awesome one when Odunze, it was the 3, and then I loved Brian Thomas Jr. I think I had him as like a top 12 player in the class, and then you obviously see him have the phenomenal rookie year that he had. But like I said, there's things he needs to clean up. But it's just that natural feel for leverage with the speed, the acceleration, the ability to stop on a dime, and then again, go up and get it, create yak. He's just obviously has that wide receiver, capabilities to be a stud in the NFL. The next guy I wanted to talk about, and this is my crush in this year's class, and it's, again, probably not going to happen for the Giants. He's like consensus wise, he's like in the, the 30s to the 50s, which is obviously outside, not really in that sweet spot for the Giants, because I just don't think they're going to value wide receiver at 34. But that's Jack Bech out of TCU, 6'1", 215 pounds. He had he was 1,000-yard wide receiver for TCU last year. He's actually good friends with Malik Neighbors from their time at LSU, which he was actually 3rd in receiving on that LSU team over Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr. when they were all freshmen. It was like Keyshawn Butte. I can't remember who was 2nd, and then the next year was when Malik Neighbors took off and led that team. But Jack Bech, again, came to know him through the Senior Bowl. He simply just wins. Like, he's an artist when it comes to route running. and catching the football. Like, he's not going to be someone that goes and separates vertically, but he can still win down the field with, setting up a off coverage corner or safety on a post route or making a tough contested grab. It's Jack Bech is like, you see these savvy slot wide receivers that are 5'9", but he's 6'1" and 215 pounds, and he makes tough ass catches. That's what Jack Bech is, right? And he's tough to bring down as a yak threat. I just know that Bech is going to be a good player. He's not going to go, in the middle or maybe not in the first round at all, because, again, he doesn't have that speed to pull away from guys and hit those, 60-yard plays, even though he has plenty of 60-yard plays in college. The question with Bech is, how do you use him? Because he doesn't have that, outside wide receiver separation speed. But he played 74% outside for TCU. But I just think he's one of those guys that you mix and match and move him all around the place. And I hate to give the Pook comparison, but it is who it reminds me of when I'm watching Jack Bech, right? Where it's just the way his quickness, his just every route is just it's beautiful, right? And then again, you add that he's strong. He's going to be someone you put on the outside. You're going to give slot reps as well. But he's going to be good. I have so much confidence that Jack Bech is going to be good. And I don't think there's any way he gets past the Rams. I think the Rams don't even have their second round pick this year. Maybe I'm wrong. But again, I think Jack Bech is just real deal. The next guy is someone I'm not super confident in, and that's Kyle Williams from Washington State, who is become a late in the draft season riser or whatever you want to call it. This is a guy I have a tough time projecting as someone who either tops out at a 400-yard season, or he's someone who gets you 700 to 900 yards consistently. He's extremely quick. It shows up in the yak game where he just eliminates angles when you get him the ball. It also shows up in his release packages where he's just got quick foot fire, and he's just able to sidestep and get vertical where he's able to separate and pull away. The issue is that I worry about guys that play at a school like Washington State, and it's just they went through the vertical game and yak, right? It's just that's how Kyle Williams wins. You watch his actual route running, he drifts into his routes. He rounds them out floating. Again, run a speed out, right? Run me a 5-yard speed out, make it quick, make it sharp. Nope. He's breaking at 5 yards, and he's drifting that into a 7-yard route. That's just type of stuff that, stops you from getting the ball consistently in the NFL. When you see him get into the stem of, the stem of a route, right? Whatever route it is, a post, out, in, whatever, it just feels like there's, way too many, steps involved. He doesn't have the best ball skills in the world. But again, if you can get off the line of scrimmage, win vertically, and then make guys miss in the quick game, then you can find consistent success in the NFL as a wide receiver too. You're not going to be on these wide receiver tandem lists, but you can be successful. And I feel like that's where Kyle Williams, I guess some of it matters situation, right? If he goes to a team that doesn't have a great wide receiver group, he's going to be a fun rookie young player. He's going to give time to develop, and he's going to be someone who plays a long time in the NFL. Or he could go somewhere where his need is not immediate on that team, and he just never really breaks it as a guy who's going to be a consistent contributor. So I just have a tough time figuring out which of those roles for Kyle Williams will be. Again, 400-yard guy or someone who gets you 750 every year. The next guy we'll talk about, development, and I don't see it as much, but with Williams, I can definitely be sold on him cleaning up the route running and being successful. I mean, he had over 2,000 yards and 20 touchdowns the last 2 seasons for Wazoo. But the next guy is someone that a lot of people have fallen in love with, and that's Ole Miss wide receiver Trey Harris, 6'2", 205 pounds. He had 1,000 yards and 17 yards per catch on a 78% catch rate this past season for the Rebels. He's big, fast, and physical at the catch point, and those are guys that people fall in love with in the draft season. The issue, though, is just his releases are so elementary, and press stops him from separating, right? A 6'2" wide receiver, when guys press up on him, it stops him from separating. He's not getting stuck at the line of scrimmage, but he's not able to separate. And his route running is either really rough or it's really lazy. And that's paired with not having the desire to block. And that worries me about, with the route running. It's like, okay, well, are those two things correlated? And then at Ole Miss, they ran hitches, posts, and digs. And that's basically it. And the hitches were always easy because they play so off. And then a lot of the stuff was scheme oriented. Now, he has these highlights that are really nice because of some of the leaping catches he has or a yak play he'll run into. But I just don't see a guy who's going to garner targets in the NFL unless he's on a depleted group. Then you get him, and it's like, there's going to be highlight plays of Trey Harris. He has the ability to make those highlight plays in the NFL. But if you're not consistent, you're not going to be put on the field to make those highlight plays. And that's what I always worry with these guys that fit the Trey Harris mold. Is like, I understand what you can do, but I do worry a little bit about what you don't do, because what you don't do is what stops you from getting on the field. It's very different than Jalen Hyatt. But it's like, yeah, Jalen Hyatt can run past everybody, but he can't run any other route. So how do you get that guy on the field consistently to set him up to run past other people when they're trying to cover other routes that you run, because you don't run any other routes? So again, Trey Harris, he'll go up, make a tough grab. You'll get him a catch in space. He'll break a tackle and run. Like, again, big, fast, physical, and physical at the catch point. But it's just everything else is so rough that I have a hard time projecting success for you at the next level. And then the last guy I wanted to do some quick on is someone that I'm kind of out on, and that's Savion Williams out of TCU. The Giants actually had a top 30 visit with him, according to Dan Duggan. 6'4" wide receiver. Wow, that guy gets targeted down the field, right? He's a big play machine, right? Tell me I'm right, Bobby. No, he had a 6.6 yard average depth of target this last year for TCU. Only 10 of 112 wide receivers that qualified in the NFL last year with targets had less than a 6.6 average depth of target, right? And it was almost all slot wide receivers. And then you pair in, like, his foot quickness versus press, it's not there. When he has, off coverage and a free release, there's just a hitch in his get off. And he's got this good speed when it's built up, but it just does take time to build up. But you do see, like, flashes of really good. Like, he has these quick transitions, which is good to see for his size, but he also plays at one speed, and he'll outrun the hole in his zone coverage. He won't have his eyes looking for the ball. And again, another guy who has these highlight grabs, right? I think it was against UCF where he, a ball in the end zone in between double coverage, quarterback throws it up, he goes up and grabs it, right? Another play in that game, he runs a dig, quarterback throws it behind him, he gets his eyes around, adjusts, turns his ball, turns back to the ball, makes a tough grab. He has those. But watch him on a consistent basis, right? And it's just like all the red flags you see for wide receivers in the draft. The ball, he lets the ball get into his chest every single time, right? Anytime he's facing the ball, it gets into his chest. He has a ton of drops, right? I think he had 9 drops last year for TCU. And he jumps for passes where it's just not needed. But then you go and look, he's 8 for 9 in contested grabs, but he also didn't have as many opportunities as you'd like in those spots. So again, you have this athletic giant who can flash some quickness, but there's just too many flaws in his game and red flags in his stats and advanced numbers for me to buy into, oh, we can work with this guy. And there's others, like, they hand him the ball off, right? Like TCU and they put him as a Wildcat quarterback. And it's like, well, we can use him. And my worry with him is you have this guy that's big, fast, but it's like, is he just like a worse version of Cordell Patterson? Like, that's kind of my when I see with Savion Williams, I was like, are we getting a worse version of Cordell Patterson? Now, Cordell Patterson had a great career, first-round pick, but it's just this guy that, like, sounds good in theory, but in practice is really not that, right? And Patterson was kind of a nothing on offense for the majority of his career and was a returner, and then found some, late career usage in Atlanta and a little bit with Pittsburgh. So that's just the guys I want to talk about. There's other guys we could go into that are in the first round or whoever, but those are the guys I wanted to talk about on this because I feel like they're the ones that people get a little excited about, but I have some worries about, and the guys that I am truly excited about, like a Jack Bech. So appreciate you guys again. Go tell Connor Rogers thank you for jumping on the Giants Nation show. We'll be back Wednesday for an O-line preview, Friday edge preview, both of those episodes with Grump. Going to have a Travis Hunter wide receiver breakdown out this week. So really excited about everything that's coming ahead. Draft is just around the corner. Appreciate you guys. We'll see you on the next one. Until then, let's go Big Blue.